People of the internet, and here in my hands I have an Atari 2600 Junior model, but I'm not going to review it today. Pretty big shock. Instead I'm going to review a game for the console first, which is pretty out of fashion for me. I like to review the console first before I review the games, but I just want to do a short review on this game I really liked. It's called Yar's Revenge. If you can't tell, it's an Atari 2600 exclusive, and while it isn't my favorite Atari 2600 game, it pretty much remains up there with one of my favorites every single time I change it. But first, before we play the game, I'm just gonna show you the instruction manual. And you might think that's pretty weird, but you'll see. So you probably know about instruction manuals. I mean, like, they're the things that are in paper, they come with every single game, you just leave them in the box to collect dust. But not this manual. It's very, very much the same for any other Atari 2600 manuals. I mean, unless it's something like Space Invaders, you have to keep the manual, otherwise you won't know what you're doing. Because all of the in-game instructions are contained in here. This is in a time before you could just simply cram everything into an in-game tutorial. Nah, you had to read how to play the game. And that wasn't the only thing you could read. Here you have the history of the R's, just so you know, backstory. I mean, like, as if this game needed backstory, but okay. I mean, like, this cover looks pretty cool, he's got a Gatling gun right here. He's grabbing, he's got his claw here and he's shooting pellets out of his mouth. He's a pretty cool dude. Just in case you get confused, just in case you think that this up here is a swirl and that this down here is the missile, can be confusing. Anyway, I like these manuals a lot. There's not really a whole lot else to it, just the instructions in different languages. But yeah, just a little insight, because a lot of Atari 2600 games had manuals like this. And there was a comic with it, and I'm pretty sure that if I can find it, I will put it in a future video, because there were a lot of comics published by DC. Yeah, same people who make Batman, Superman, Suicide Squad, they made a comic based on an Atari 2600 game, like this one. But without further ado, let's get on to the game. So the game immediately just plunks you right in. The time for talking is over. It's time for action now, fucker. Anyway, so you have to get to the Kotal. Yeah, that's the thing surrounded by that, I don't know, I guess shit fence, you could call it. What else does it look like? This is Atari 2600. You have to use your imagination. So the Yar can either use a projectile attack, or you can go up close and keep ramming the shield to wear it down. Once the Yar wears it down, he can ready the Zorlon cannon. Yeah, that's the seizure-inducing nightmare at the back of the screen. To finally defeat the Kotal. Bear in mind that this is the only way the Yar can defeat the Kotal, and he better not get hit by the Zorlon cannon, otherwise it's curtains for him. The level of skill required isn't that great, but it's still a certain level of skill and timing that's required, and it sometimes gets pretty frustrating. But you can't just remain in the same place for long to keep shooting at it. You have to avoid the missile. Yeah, that's the missile. Pretty scary missile, right? If Yar stays in one place for too long, then the missile will get him. Unless, of course, he is in the neutral zone. Yeah, that's the giant flickering checkered line in the middle of the screen that you see. If the Yar stays there, he cannot be hurt by the missile, but he can be hurt by the swirl. Yeah, that's what happens when the Kotal tries to attack. It turns into the swirl and is able to cut through the Yar even if he is in the neutral zone. So movement is a very big element in Yar's Revenge, which was a pretty big thing for the time. I mean, like, Yar's Revenge does have arcade-style gameplay, but there is an objective to work towards. After that, there's really not a lot to say. The gameplay just gets faster every time you defeat the Yar and you try to rack up a high score. Yeah, this is Atari. The only thing to do is high scores. I really like this game, though. There's certainly a lot of creativity that went into it, and there's even an Easter egg you can find. I mean, I haven't managed to find it yet, but if you look up Yar's Revenge Easter egg with Howard Scott Warshaw, you are able to find the programmer's name hidden somewhere in the game. Overall, Yar's Revenge is actually a pretty good game, and it only has the common problems that typical Atari 2600 games suffer from, which of course is the graphics. But if the graphics are my biggest complaint, then really I don't have a lot to say. Yar's Revenge still holds up today as one of my favorite Atari 2600 games.